Welcome back to Travolting Presents Easy Ryders. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering 1969. Enjoy the episode.
Got my first real six string, bought it at the 5 and dime.
Do you know the words?
Played it till my fingers bled. Was the podcast of 69.
That was good. That's
right, folks.
That was very good, Jeff.
We are here talking about the motion picture 1969.
You had the lyrics pulled up, right?
I did have the lyrics.
Yeah.
I
knew you did not know that song.
I know the tune. I didn't know the words.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I feel like that's everybody for this song.
But yeah, this week, we're not just talking about, if we're talking numbers, we're not just talking about 1969. We're talking about the softest 6 out of 10 I've given in my time.
Yeah.
This is a soft 6 out of 10.
Very soft 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
A little over 50%.
Yeah, like slightly over 50%. It's pleasant enough.
Pleasant enough.
A gentleman 6.
That's good. This is a gentleman 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
First and foremost, thank you for listening last week to our episode on Beetlejuice. We hope you enjoyed it. I know it was like 20 hours long.
Yeah. Well, we don't say this lightly, but we really enjoyed having Brian and Trina, Scott and Trina come and talk about Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Beetlejuice, just a really good. Oh shit! I said it twice.
He's already done his thing. He's not coming back.
He's not coming back.
He's not coming back.
I'm really traumatized.
From
that.
Traumatized from what happened last week. It was really upsetting.
Fucking traumatized.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, we're doing a few things differently on this podcast, like me doing the intros and covering women.
Yes.
But of course, we can't stray too far off of our traditions, as you all heard
it was
last week.
I warned you guys. I'm just saying I warned you.
You warned me.
I warned you that some things might happen.
If you don't know what we're talking about, please go back and listen to our Beetlejuice episode.
Yes. But we're not talking about Beetlejuice this week, though it is important context that we'll get into.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about 1969. Motion picture directed by Ernest Thompson. And of course, this is Easy Ryders. We're covering the films of Winona Ryder.
Yes.
But
there are two other actors
in this motion picture
that we simply must talk about.
Yes.
Because they're the forefront of this movie.
Yes.
I mean, as we talk about Winona Ryder's early career, we've covered like a starring role in the farm movie.
Yes, the farm movie. Square Dance.
Dallas, right. I remember. The movie was called Farm Movie.
Who Shot JR?
Who Shot JR, yeah. Square Dance?
Yeah, Square Dance. That was the name of the movie.
We're not like recording these too far out of like months later. Like we did record the episode for this like a week ago.
Yes.
Literally a week ago.
But we are recording these very much ahead. You folks are listening to this in December of 2023. I'd like to say the moment we were recording this, mere hours ago, Kevin McCarthy was removed from his position as Speaker of the House. And I would like to offer Travolting's official position on this matter, which is LOL. All right, back to the important business. 1969.
A good year.
Yeah, one of the most pivotal years in American history. That this movie is...
You're staying away from calling it a good year.
That this movie is interested in kind of talking about. It has...
A little bit.
Occasional ideas. It is sometimes willing to make a point.
Yeah.
But before we delve into the American context of the year...
we're going to go into the writer.
The Winona context.
Yeah.
Because as I preface every week, I'm reading Winona Ryder, a biography of Winona Ryder, up to the movies that we're covering, kind of just bringing some context about her life and career to this point.
Yes.
Because they're picking up with her after Beetlejuice, which was her biggest, it was a massive success.
Yeah.
She made that introduced her to the large audience of the world.
Big chapter of the book.
Yes. Big chapter of the book. And after Beetlejuice, her, capital in Hollywood skyrocketed. And her social capital as well within the larger context of the U.S. Like, people knew who Winona Ryder was now.
Yeah.
After Beetlejuice. And so that gives her some problems in her personal life. Because, Beetlejuice, she's immediately recognizable. She's still in school.
She is 15, going on 16 in Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Born in 71. This movie comes out in 88, but she's born in October. She's a late 71 birthday, which means she's 16 during the filming of this movie.
Yes, she's 16 in this movie, roughly 15 in Beetlejuice.
Right.
These movies come out the same year.
Right, so she might have been just turning 16.
Yes.
While Beetlejuice was filming, probably.
Yeah. She's roughly like 15, 16 during the production of this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact times that this movie filmed. It kind of looks like, a summer, fall.
But that being said, I'm sure for what you're about to say, like a huge impact.
Yes, huge impact on her life, which goes into why this movie comes out the same year as Beetlejuice. So she goes back to school. She's no longer homeschooled. She's in, actual high school.
Yeah.
And immediately everybody now knows who she is. She describes like having weird looks in the hallways. People kind of bully her over it. She develops a stalker at that, at the age of 16. She now has a stalker.
Terrifying.
And so she's just desperately, she goes back to school and she's like, the first thing she wants is, I just need to get out of here. I need to work on something. What are the movies I'm available for? Like, what am I getting? And so she she goes through all the scripts. She's getting a lot of scripts being sent her.
Mm-hmm.
And then
15-year-old.
Yes. Incredibly impressive. Just in the 3 performances she's had,
I was deciding what classes I was going to take in high school. Deciding between theater ed and speech.
I was in a school play and getting extremely excited that Disney had purchased Lucasfilm and announced Star Wars Episode 7.
Wait, that was when you were 15, 16?
Yeah.
I was a freshman in college. Fuck, I'm old.
Yeah, you're old.
I am old.
I would have been a sophomore in high school at the time. Roughly.
Fuck me. All right. Anyway.
And so this is...
Reading a lot of scripts.
Yes. This is the one script where she's kind of interested in the material.
Okay.
She doesn't like the script very much.
Mm-hmm.
She, I believe, described it as a mediocre script.
Yeah, it didn't really get any better.
She said, mediocre script, but it's a movie that's filming right away. And it's a decent role for me.
If that's the bar, then it's
a decent role for me, and my parents were hippies. Yeah. And she's like, well, this will at least, will get me to delve a little more into my parents' history and time.
Yeah.
Period.
Folks, we know you can hear the AC, but it is 88 degrees in Chicago in fucking October.
It's October 3rd.
We're not turning it off. Anyway.
And so her parents are very involved in the anti-war movement in the 60s. And she's like, well, that interests me. Is that context of this.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, she doesn't like the script. So she kind of half-asses her audition for the movie. She's like, I am not going to not go out there, but I kind of hope I don't get the movie. And then she got the movie.
That's how it usually goes.
Well, I got the movie, and I'm going to do it because it gives me work. She's like, well, no one's ever going to see this movie. So I'm not too concerned about it. Which is kind of prescient because we had a difficult time watching this movie.
Yes.
I had to order a DVD for it and then provide you with the file off the DVD. That was the only way to watch this movie.
Did you rip the movie off?
Yeah, I'll rip that, dude. Her exact quote at the end of this was, I did it because I was 16 years old, really bored, and wanted to work. Which, relatable stuff.
Honestly, yeah.
She says basically the only thing she gets out of this movie is that Robert Downey Jr. is a huge inspiration for her through the production of this movie and then afterward. And that he kind of gave her the mentality to have on set.
Yeah.
Because we talked through, Square Dance, her work with Jason Robards, and I am forgetting the actress who plays her mom's name in that movie.
Me too.
But through the two of them, she kind of develops, how to function on set and how to, get by the time that's waiting and how to appear natural on the screen. She says Robert Downey Jr. taught her how to have joy in the process of making these things.
Interesting.
She says every day he would come in the best spirits and just instill in everybody the importance of having a good time on set. And obviously Robert Downey Jr. has a lot of his own problems at this time with substance abuse.
Yeah.
But through even, in his recovery period, it does very much seem like he's a guy who likes his job and is very, hell-bent on making sure that, like, his job is fun.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be there if he's not having a good time.
I won't say he's, like, early in his career in this movie, but I'm looking at his IMDb, and I don't see any, like major hits.
He is early in his career in the sense that he started his first movie is when he's 4 years old.
Yes.
Or I believe it was when he was 4. Let me see. He was
born in 65. First movie is 1970.
Yeah, Pound, because he plays a puppy in like one scene. I've watched the scene online. It's very cute.
Got it.
But he's like 22, 23 in this movie. So it's early in the sense of a normal actor, but not necessarily for him.
Right.
He had already done Back to School, Weird Science, Less Than Zero, several other things.
Yeah.
He would be a great subject for the show. If our show is kind of about these actors who have big blow or like collapses and then comebacks.
That one seems to have been staring us in the face, though.
That's like he's like maybe the most obvious subject for this show,
which is why I almost don't want to cover him because he's so obvious.
Because he would be fun because he has been in like a lot of interesting art movies in the first half, and then the second half would be
Blockbuster Boy.
Let me run you through Robert Downey Jr.'s 2010 through 2019. Let me read you the roles he played in that period of time. Tony Stark Iron Man, Rob, Peter Hyman, Sherlock Holmes, Tony Stark Iron Man, Tony Stark Iron Man, Hank Palmer, Marvin, Tony Stark Iron Man, Tony Stark Iron Man, Tony Stark Iron Man, Tony Stark Iron Man, Tony Stark Iron Man. It'd be kind of fun to do that. Every week we'd come back and be like, all right, Spider-Man week and Travolting, folks.
Man, yeah, you are kind of right. But it is almost like too obvious, and
Yeah.
it is like staring us in the face.
Yeah.
That's a season 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah, he's a very obvious one that we can kind of put on the back burner.
I don't want to do him after Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
But maybe we do him like a few after Winona
we'll do
Ryder.
him sometime down the line. We have a lot of people who like fit into this mold.
Didn't we already come up with a name for what his hypothetical podcast would be?
I pitched it should be called Robert Podcast Jr., but that's maybe not the best title.
I love you, Jeff. That is the dumbest name.
Robert Podcast Jr.
That is so stupid. And I love you. You usually have some really good ideas.
The actual name would be Downey and Out. Down and Out.
I can.
There's other ones we can. It's not the next series. We've just said this, so we have time to figure it out.
Yeah. Anyway,
there's
also another actor in this movie.
Yes. Let me really quickly finish
sorry.
the Winona.
Keep doing your thing.
Because I am now. We just got in the RDJ corner.
Yes.
But she gets the role. She learns a lot from Robert Downey Jr. during production. And then it comes out, and she still, to this day, kind of considers it a mistake to do this movie. Mm-hmm. She's like, I don't have necessarily regrets. It's just like it wasn't... I was trying to be selective in my roles and only do things that were artistically interesting to me. And I kind of just did this one because I had nothing else going on.
Yeah.
But that's where she comes into the movie. Movie's directed by Ernest Thompson, as I said earlier. He's a playwright for the most part. He wrote the play On Golden Pond and then wrote the film adaptation, which he did secure him an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. Yeah, which is why it's funny that the script for this movie is very milquetoast. Because this guy is like a very long-term established playwright.
Yeah. Didn't he get nominated for an Oscar or won?
He won an Oscar for On Golden Pond, yes.
Yeah. So it is very weird that it is that.
Yeah.
From beginning, the script was milquetoast per Winona.
Yeah.
And the production of the script was also milquetoast.
This is the first movie he directs.
Well, that also makes sense. Bless you.
I'm so sorry. Maybe folks enjoyed that. But yeah, this is the first movie he directs. And he doesn't really do much else of like major note in terms of directing.
Yeah.
He directs a movie called The Penis Responds at some point that no one's ever seen.
The Penis Responds.
And then he does another live TV adaptation of On Golden Pond. It's like he's kind of just known as the On Golden Pond guy.
And guess what? I've not heard of On Golden Pond.
That's kind of his thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so movie gets made, and then we can kind of delve into it.
Yeah. Well, Kiefer Sutherland's in this movie.
Kiefer is in this movie.
And I would say he is like the closest to a lead I can think of.
Yeah, he's definitely the main character of the movie.
It's like he's got like 60% of the screen time. I would say he's got 55% of the screen time.
Yeah.
Downey has 40, Winona has 5.
I would give Winona a little more than
10.
that. Yeah, I'd like 10 to 15.
50, 40, 10.
Yeah, she kind of doesn't really get much to do until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because kind of the movie, like, it's Kiefer and RDJ, and then when RDJ gets locked up, Winona kind of takes his spot as, like,
It was
Kiefer's
you
sidekick.
saying Downey getting locked up for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, Downey getting locked up for playing a guy who has a substance abuse issue. Poor guy.
Yeah. Well, Kiefer, at this point, he is coming 2 years just off of 2 major hits of his, Stand By Me and Lost Boys. So it's no doubt at all in my mind of, like, of course, he's, like, got the majority of the screen time in this movie. He's, like, the most... I mean, Winona's up there, too, but he is, like, very much, like, the most popular known actor at this time.
Yes.
And I'd say even more so because this is coming out the same year as Beetlejuice, so Winona's just now getting recognized.
Yeah, it's like 3 big up-and-coming stars anchor this movie.
Yes.
And so it's somewhat strange that just the movie doesn't exist, for lack of a better term.
Right, yeah. And, like, I know you said Gentleman 6, and I agree. There were some juicy bits.
This movie is well performed.
Yeah,
even if like I don't really care about any of the characters or understand like
that's ultimately what it is.
Yeah,
there's some good scenes between Kiefer and Downey.
Yeah,
there's some good scenes between Kiefer and Ryder.
It's just that the movie, none of these characters are interesting. It's not even that I don't understand them. I do for the most part understand what they all want. It's just they're not like interesting people.
Yeah,
you can. A great actor can do so much with a character, but there's only so much you can do when like. Your role is just, I kind of am a hippie, and
but kind of not.
And I'm going to give a speech at the end, and that's my character.
Yeah, we're kind of against the war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
That's the big... Well, I mean, if you look at the reviews of this movie, that's like the biggest hit about it, is it doesn't really plant its flag in either direction. It's like a soft-core anti-war film.
Yeah, it's like the war is bad... And that's like kind of just what it says.
Yeah.
It's like maybe we shouldn't do that.
Maybe that's
don't worry, I'm going to bust my boy out of prison.
But especially the fact that this movie came out in 88, like it had no reason to be softcore about it.
Yeah.
Could have been like full out like anti-war.
And that is the thing I have about this movie. Is like this movie's set in 1969, as you would expect, which is like one of the most pivotal years in American culture and society.
Yeah.
It's generally considered, it's a turning point year. Like, 1969 is the year of Nixon gets inaugurated, the moon landing, Woodstock, the Manson murders. It's like the year when the culture shifts from counterculture and, experimentation of the 60s to starting to turn against that. And counterculture kind of ends in 73 with the end of the Vietnam War. And the release of American Graffiti. I could go into it. I'll talk about it throughout the movie.
Okay.
Because, counterculture starts in 1963.
You're getting into
it.
You are getting into
after the
it.
Kennedy assassination. That's kind of like when it really starts.
Yeah.
Kind of, and the escalation of the Vietnam War. It goes through in 69 is kind of the year when the culture turns against it. Nixon has a big part to do with that.
Yeah.
The Manson murders have a lot to do with that because he's kind of like falsely attributed as like being a hippie icon.
Yeah.
Woodstock and the reaction to it kind of has part to do with it. And then people just start turning towards, somewut more normal interests. And the moon landing is like, they're like, that's the next stage. We can forget about the hippie stuff.
Well, and it's also like in the 70s, there was a lot more funding put into really, really killing the counterculture wave.
Yes. Nixon puts a lot into it.
Yeah. It's no accident that the behavioral analysis unit in the FBI was made in the 70s to catch serial killers who have always existed, but now they become a thing we need to focus on because they're all hippies.
Yes. And so 69 is very much that shift year. It's kind of like the really excited last gasp of counterculture being like a force.
The hype.
The hype.
Yeah.
And which is something of a shame. But the movie isn't interested in that necessarily.
No.
It kind of talks about it as like, I mean, they keep like alluding to Nixon. The movie just doesn't really have a perspective.
Not really.
It's just kind of like, let's just look at this little snapshot of 69.
Because it shows you, like, this is why we don't like Vietnam, but this is why you shouldn't be a hippie, pointing to both Kiefer's brother and Kiefer's friend.
Yes.
It's like, the movie's trying to say, it's like, be like Kiefer.
Yeah.
Whose name in the movie I don't even remember. I think it's...
I will only be referring to him as Kiefer. His name is Scott.
It could be Bob, for all I care. But yeah, it's like, the movie's trying to say, like, be like Kiefer. Have no beliefs.
Yes. Just kind of go... This movie has the same philosophies as Forrest Gump, which is like...
Yeah.
Forrest Gump, which I do want to say, I think Forrest Gump is more satirical.
Look at Jeff on his, like, rant mood.
This is my favorite period of history.
I love it. No, I love it too. I love it too. Yeah. But Forrest Gump, you were saying. I want you
Forrest
to finish
Gump
the point.
is more satirical than it usually gets credit for.
Yeah.
And I think it fumbles the Jenny story so bad that it's kind of hard sometimes to still think about it like that. Because Jenny's story is like, she desperately tries to get away from her abusive father and find a life, and then she dies of AIDS. That is Jenny's story in that movie.
Yeah.
But for the Forrest Gump, if you look at Forrest Gump, like, just remove any hint of satire from it, it's a movie that's like, you know what the best way to live life is? Just be like a feather on the wind, baby. Make no choices. Just let life take you wherever it goes and have no input of your own. Be like this guy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same idea as this movie. Without the satire, it's just like, just kind of like go with it and find the middle ground.
Yeah.
And you can really, like, you know, be like Kiefer.
When there's no short supply of movies like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like movies that have thoughts, that have a
just
perspective.
Stances,
Yeah.
you know, like that place they plant their flag.
Yeah. I will take a movie that has a vile perspective I disagree with over something that's just like, sometimes.
I'm not saying anything, but I'm giving Jeff a look.
Yeah.
Like, are you sure you want to say that, Jeff?
Okay. I'm gonna give you an
I don't have to say the name of the movie and you know what movie I'm thinking about.
I'm gonna give you an actual example. Okay. It's not gonna be that.
You know what movie I'm thinking about,
yes,
right?
You're thinking about Pawn Shop Chronicles.
Oh, no, different one.
Oh, Joker?
No.
What are you thinking of?
White Man's Burden.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
That's a movie that takes a stance.
That movie definitely takes a stance. I do mean in a somewhat... Maybe I shouldn't have said vile, but...
Yeah, like, let's backtrack on that one just
a
little bit.
Batman vs. Superman is a movie I think is terrible. I dislike that movie's perspective. I think it is kind of just like this ugly view of its characters. I will take it over The Flash, which has no view of its characters and is not interested in anything.
Yeah.
That is the best, popular culture example I can think of that thought.
I've not seen The Flash, and I don't remember anything that
You should watch The Flash just for this. It's free. You should watch it just because you have to understand how ugly that movie is. It's maybe the ugliest movie I've ever seen.
Would you say it's like the peak of the horrendous like build of the DCEU?
Yeah, every choice that movie makes is like cocaine. Every time you're like, here's how you think this movie is gonna go. Here's like the logical like continuation of this plot thread. It's like, no, he has to like go back in time now and kill himself or kill his mom or something like that.
What?
The end of the movie is he has to let his mom die. It's like the
that's
okay.
great. That's like whatever.
The one good scene in that movie is the Ben Affleck scene because it's like it gives a really emotional send off to like because it's the last time he plays Batman. He gets like this really emotional little send off scene, and then the rest of the movie is just bonkers bullshit. Michael Shannon is so he walks into a scene, he literally like is looking at a cue card and it's just like, I am here for Krypton or some bullshit like that. I'm so sick of these movies. I'm so sick of
Me too. Scorsese was right.
Yeah, Scorsese was right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you just want to keep ranting? We don't have to
let's just talk about 1969. Because the first thing I want to point out, and Winona Ryder as Beth.
Yeah.
She's at the and as stage now. That's big.
That is big. It's big that I see Jeff has the DVD and I see it, and it has Winona Ryder's face and name on it. But if you look up like IMDb and you look at the poster of this movie, it's like a very like Little Women classical S like poster.
Yeah. With
Winona on the left, Downey in the middle, Kiefer on the right, and the top two names is Downey Jr. and Kiefer.
Yes.
And I would argue, I could be wrong, people will probably disagree, Winona's got a little bit more street cred than Downey at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he has more street cred overall. She has more in this exact moment. Yeah. Like, she has just exploded off of Beetlejuice, and Downey's, like, kind of just established himself in a larger sense.
Yeah, just from the amount of movies he's done.
Yeah.
But he hasn't won an Oscar, been nominated for an Oscar, or has a $1 billion hit yet.
Yeah.
Winona has, like, not $1 billion hit, but you know what I mean. Like, she has a cult classic.
He's established himself at this point as, like, a name.
Bob
Downey.
Bob Downey.
It's so funny when you see people call him Bob Downey. Because, like, apparently everyone in his personal life just calls him Bob. It's so funny.
That is very funny.
But and as is such like it's she's made it. She's
there.
She's there.
And year after this, or not year after this, same year.
Yes.
Heathers. Good fucking
Can't
Lord.
wait to talk about Heathers.
1988 with this woman.
Movie starts off,
yes.
and it does the classic home video opening,
where
it's the shitty 16mm footage of Kiefer and Downey
graduating high school.
Yeah. And they're like the family dynamic in this movie is weird. Because
it is
Kiefer, who lives with his mom and dad and his brother.
Right.
And then there's Downey, who lives with his sister and his mom. Their dad is dead.
Right.
But they kind of operate as one big family unit and do everything together.
Because Downey's mom, well, they established later that Downey's mom and Kiefer's dad are having a thing.
It seems that
later.
Yeah, it seems that they start that later.
But I get what you're saying in the beginning. It's almost like they're like the next door neighbor family unit.
Because when they go to drop the brother off for his bus trip to Vietnam,
Downey's mom is there.
Downey's mom is in the car with Kiefer, or Kiefer's dad.
Because Kiefer's brother's mom, same, doesn't go with them to send off their son to Vietnam.
Yeah, they sending me to Vietnam.
But there's that one scene where she's like running and waving, and she just says like, "Don't die."
Good scene. I like it.
Performance wise, yeah.
Yeah. I like the concept of that scene. If the movie was interested in that stuff, that would be, a good thread.
Yeah. It's interesting that this is like one of the very first scenes in the movie and then just the rest of the movie doesn't.
Yeah. Because there's that home video opening, and then we pick up with Downey and Kiefer hitchhiking their way back from college to small town Maryland.
Thanksgiving or something. It's like some gathering.
It's for I think the brother's
leaving. Yeah.
They never say. I don't think they ever say the town in Maryland, do they? It's just in Maryland.
Don't ask me. I don't remember.
But after unsuccessfully hitchhiking with a gay guy, he's like trying to look at Kiefer's penis and
touch him and grope him.
Yeah,
it's like I didn't know you were married, and make those kind of jokes. Which are dated now.
Yeah. They camp out overnight, and then the next morning make it back into town, and they come across a big like church service
that Winona Ryder is at.
Yeah, Winona is like the youth volunteer or something.
Yeah, it's great to know that it's the third movie where Winona Ryder is a very devoted woman to a deity.
Yes.
Beetlejuice being the devil.
Yes. Hold me like Italian.
Yeah.
Where'd it come from?
Right, yeah. But this one, she's back to her square dance.
Yeah, back to her square dance days.
Yeah.
But, she breaks away from that conformity off screen. And then at the end, it's like a hippie.
Yeah, right.
And so she's there, and then the two of them come in. They link up with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Kiefer's dad, played by Bruce Dern, giving a very nice, tender performance.
Yeah. I think the Mariette Hartley.
Yeah.
Playing... No, sorry, different person. Joanna Cassidy plays Kiefer's mom.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. The two of them are very good. I love Bruce Dern. Great guy. And, they link up with them. The next scene is Kiefer linking up with his brother, whose name is Alden, who's a Marine who's being deployed to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it says if he was drafted or if he volunteered. I think he volunteered.
Yeah, I'm pretty... Vibe is he volunteered.
Because one thread that annoys me about this movie is that at the end of the movie, the reveal that the dad fought in World War II, which feels like something you should bring up at the start.
Yeah.
And because then you understand everybody a little more. If like the son is volunteering
to... What point was it trying to make with bringing it up that he fought in World War II?
Well, it's that, you get the vibe that Alden is volunteering to impress his dad, Brewster.
Right.
But you never quite know why he's trying. Like, what is the
that his dad's like either pro-patriot or something?
It just seems like his dad's like a conservative who's like he's like I guess I'll be a military guy for you.
Yeah, right.
If it's like this is a military family, then you understand.
Yeah,
that
and you establish that at the forefront, like you said, Jeff. Yeah,
instead the movie establishes that at the end,
which doesn't we're a whole movie in at that point.
Yes,
having no idea why he was in there in the first place.
Yes. At one point, Kiefer in narration says that in this town, the 60s never happened, and everything's still like...
It's like the 60s didn't happen until like the 70s or whatever.
Yeah. It's like it's still a town that's locked in like the 50s, Americana vibe and whatnot.
Yeah.
But Alden's going to Vietnam. Kiefer is like, basically, is very opposed to this. And kind of yells at him about it. They get into a little fight. Brewster breaks it up and tells him, like, you need to love and support your brother. He's a hero. And then they take Alden to the bus.
Yeah.
He gives
his
Kiefer
mom doesn't
his
come with
car.
him.
The mom doesn't come with.
Yeah.
It seems like the mom is kind of anti-war.
But quietly anti-war.
Quietly anti-war, which would have been great for the movie to kind of do anything with.
Yeah. And it had opportunities, too.
It has a lot of opportunities. Also, I don't know if you picked this up. I thought the brother was kind of weirdly styled like a Nazi. He kind of has like blonde hair and like the Nazi cut,
and the flat top cut.
Yeah, like not even the flat top. It was like.
Are you trying to think of like Dolph Lundgren cut?
No. I'm bringing up this. He looks like this fucking kid from Cabaret, who sings "Tomorrow Belongs to Me," who's like the little Nazi Hitler Youth kid.
Oh.
He's like weirdly dressed like...
I guess I didn't clock that.
I don't know if it was intentional or if it's just that the actor happens to look like that. It just felt like I was like, oh, are we going to do anything with this? And they didn't.
They didn't, so I don't know. I didn't clock anything.
Maybe he just looked like that and sucks to be him.
Yeah. Then we get some college life?
Yeah, we cut back to the drive back to college with Alden's car.
Because the brother gave Kiefer
the car. Is given his brother's red convertible.
Yeah.
They're back in college, and Kiefer is using a spyglass out the window and looking at girls.
Yeah.
And kind of being like, look at all these hotties out here. He's laying on his bed in front of a poster for The Graduate, which is the least subtle homage. Like I was like, I'm making The Graduate, and I'm like, well, let's hold up here, Ernest.
Yeah. And Downey is smoking pot.
Yeah.
In the room. Kiefer throws the roach out of the window.
And
again,
like,
it's like the thing where it's like, you want to take a hit, or it's like, oh, can I take a puff? And it's like, you mean a hit?
Yeah.
Because it's trying to establish that like Kiefer's like a wannabe hippie, but not a
he's
wannabe
like
hippie.
Mid. He's a mid.
He's very
hippie.
mid.
He's a midi.
He's very beta male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beta cuck.
Sorry. Like beta alpha male talk.
It's so silly.
It's so silly.
It's so stupid.
Because then somebody at work, by the way, I'm not unemployed anymore, kinda. But somebody at work was telling me about like, they asked me about like, what do you think about, because some of the folks at work now know that I used to work in film.
Yeah.
And they were like, have you heard of like, what are your thoughts on American Psycho? I'm like, it's an okay movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's
a good
fine.
movie. I like it.
Yeah, it's fine. And he's like, oh, what do you think about like the Sigma male? I'm like, what the fuck is a Sigma male? He's like, well, that's like what like Patrick Bateman is like. He's like a Sigma male. You're like so in tune that you're out of tune.
You know what he is? He's a psychopath.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like, so are
Psycho.
Sigma males like psychopaths? Because that's what I think about when people say alpha males.
Yeah.
When they say alpha male, it's like, oh, you're talking about like a like a douchebag.
Yeah.
Like that's what an alpha male is, right?
Yeah. And now, they are trying to say like an alpha male is just a guy who takes charge. It's like, no, it's just a guy who's an asshole.
Yeah. Like beta males. You don't be a beta male. You don't be a submissive little bitch, right? And it's like, you mean like kind and courteous and like understanding and in tune with emotions? How fucking imbecilic of you.
It's all
So
just it's just the continuation of the
toxic masculinity.
Dudes who just like want to, feel like they're tough.
Go to therapy, guys.
Yeah.
Go
everyone go to therapy.
Everyone go to therapy. Anyway, sorry. So it's my turn to have a rant.
Yes, we all deserve this moment. So they're looking out the window.
Spying on some girls.
And then Kiefer's like, look at this hottie. She kind of looks like your sister. And then turns around. It is
Winona.
He's like, fuck, it is your sister.
Yeah, who is yet to graduate from high school yet, but she's looking at the school to go to.
Yes.
And so they talk with her.
She's a senior.
And she's a senior. And they're like, well, like, why do you want to come to state? And it's like, I only want to go to like a Ivy League or whatever. It's like, it looks fun here or whatever.
Winona's like kind of experimenting with hippie ideology.
Yeah, that's like what the movie's trying to like kind of tell you.
She's dressed very conservatively at this point in the movie in like a dress,
teetering on it.
And then as the movie goes on, she dresses more like someone from the counterculture. But she and both their moms are there visiting with her. Yeah,
and so Downey and Kiefer are like giving a little tour around, and they come across like a war protest on campus. And that they're going to storm a building?
Yeah, so they come across a protest, an anti-Vietnam protest,
yeah.
Where they're going to take the administrative building and occupy it. It's like what the dude says in The Big Lebowski. He's like, I spent most of my college years occupying various administration buildings.
Was that what it mostly was?
It was one of the forms of protest they used. They would just occupy administration buildings. Like they would
do what?
They would want the school to come out against the war.
And what would that achieve?
Well, it did something. It was a form of protest to get publicity.
Okay. To me, that just like means like, oh, you don't want to go to class today. Like, sorry, I might. Yeah. Anyway,
it was a strange form of protest, but it was what they did. But they come across it and they all get swept up in it. And this is when I noted on my timeline that the movie has a Jimi Hendrix needle drop exactly 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
Where it does there must be some kind of way out of here.
Yeah.
Which is like, if your movie has anything to do with Vietnam, the song will appear in it.
It's either that or
well, here's the thing. I said, so in the scene, they all get swept up. Winona gets injured.
Yeah.
Like a bleeding child or a bleeding guy falls on her.
Yeah.
After the police like start assaulting the students.
Yeah.
They got her out of there, and I was like, and the whole time the my way out of here is playing, and I'm like, if this movie drops, like all this movie needs now is to drop Creedence next.
Yeah.
Scene cut, and you just hear drowning down the bottom. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Exactly. Right on tune with that as well.
It just cuts to them driving and they're listening to Creedence in the car. And I'm like, of course they're listening.
Of course they are.
They're listening to Creedence.
But that was always like a problem. It's like, what are you guys? Like, are you saying like they're trying to be anti-war or they're listening to like pro-war like music or anti?
Well, it's anti-war music.
Is Creedence anti-war?
Yeah. It was all, I mean, it was like kind of loose, but it was all Vietnam music.
That's what I mean. It's like it was all Vietnam music.
Yeah.
You'd hear that in movies taking place in Vietnam.
Because Creedence did, I know Senator's son, it ain't me, it ain't me.
And it was like lyrically anti-war?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. I thought Creedence was like, not pro-war, but like, it's like when you think about, fuck some movie that used the Wagner song and like the Vietnam attack.
Yeah, it's Fortunate Son is a song about, being able to buy yourself out of the draft.
Like go to college and shit like that.
Yeah. It's like, it ain't me, I ain't no Senator's son.
Oh, okay.
So it is a really funny just jump from Hendrix to Creedence.
Yeah.
I watched a Vietnam, it was Full Metal Jacket. I watched Full Metal Jacket recently.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick. And at no point in that movie did they use any like Creedence or Jimi Hendrix. And I was like, I'm insane there's a Vietnam movie that didn't use it.
Well, that's kind of what I thought. It's like, that's a movie that is like anti-war.
Yeah.
and yet it didn't use those songs in it, and that's why I attribute Credence to being like not pro-war, but it's like the background track to all of Vietnam.
It's always the background. I mean, usually the soldiers, because a lot of them were drafted, would listen to anti-war music.
Yeah.
But that I had a thought. Sorry. The Post, Steven Spielberg movie that we talked about on the show before. A movie that I like a lot.
This anymore.
A movie that I do like a lot. Opening shot of that movie is a helicopter. I'm like, no.
Spielberg, not
it's
you too.
the
man.
only scene in the movie set in Vietnam, which I get it. It's a very easy way to establish your time period and place. It is just
jungle, Apache helicopter, Credence.
Yeah, anytime
Vietnam.
there's a helicopter in Vietnam, you will hear Credence. It is contractually obligated to play.
Yeah.
But they're driving around listening to Credence, joyriding. And Kiefer's like kind of driving erratically, and so
and
they're picking up all these hitchhikers. They like 5 hitchhikers in the back.
There's one funny scene where they pick one guy up. It's like, where are you headed? It's like, well, I wasn't heading anywhere.
Yeah,
because he's just sitting on the side of the road.
Like, I guess I'll go visit my sister.
Yeah.
If you're heading that way, and they pick up a Marine, a guy in a full like military dress.
Oh yeah.
And Kiefer's driving somewhat poorly, so Downey says he'll take over, and then Downey like speeds at like 200 miles per hour down the road. They're like, let us out! And they all stop the car, and everyone gets out except for Kiefer and Downey.
Yeah.
And then that's that.
Are you also struggling to remember what's
No,
next?
I have all the things because there's a lot of like little filler stuff, but it's not because the next big scene is Winona graduating.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Which is I really like the scene.
I feel like there's something in between though.
There isn't.
Really?
Of like importance.
Why do I feel like we're halfway through the movie already?
We are halfway through the movie.
No fucking way. God.
So we're at Winona's graduation, and she's the valedictorian.
Yeah, and she starts giving like a regular speech that quickly spins and turns into like anti-war stuff.
Yeah. She gives a speech where she's like, I was at a protest, and a bleeding boy fell on me.
Yeah.
She's like, just like Lady Macbeth before me, I was not able to. All I see is the blood.
Yeah.
Out damn spot. And she's trying to, and she's essentially saying that like this opened my eyes to this evil war that Nixon's keeping us involved in, yada yada yada. The whole time Bruce Dern is up on the stage, kind of like getting a little more pissed.
And then
she kind of has the crowd. The crowd's into it.
The crowd's into it, and Kiefer and Downey are in the rafters,
like
cheering her on, like yeah.
But Winona's like very much shifted from giving a speech at a church service to a speech at a anti-war speech. At her high school graduation.
Yeah. Does Winona have the most growth in this movie?
She does.
Yeah.
And this is her first like real scene in the movie.
Yeah.
She's quite good in the scene at the protest. But that's mostly just like a kid falls on her and then she's like crying and going through it.
Yeah.
She's very charming in this whole movie. I realize I haven't really talked much about her performance.
Yeah, and I as I was watching this movie, I was like, oh, I'm picking up a lot of like her patented Winona tendencies.
Yes.
Like it's like the nose scruff.
Yeah.
It's something that she does in a lot of her performances. It's like that. Well, like I know people can't see my face, but it's like immediately what I'm talking about.
I know what you're doing.
She's like flustered and can't think of all the words, so she does a thing where she scrunches up her nose.
And she just has the most interesting voice in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it much more next week with Heather's with Dear Diary.
Yeah. I'm so ready to read
I love Heather's. Heather's a much more interesting anti-establishment movie than this.
Yeah. Just realize, and you'll talk about this in the biography context corner, that it's interesting, she's getting bullied at school, and she's like, I need to just find work. And it was this movie, and then it was a movie about killing bullies.
Yeah, and like blowing up a school.
Makes perfect sense to me.
I'm just going to talk so much. I'm going to do so many Christian Slater impressions next week. Audience is not ready.
You said that like you weren't looking forward to it.
I'm so excited.
Okay, so now I need to clock that's your
school. Okay, so she gives an anti-Vietnam speech. I like what she's doing in this scene. I like what she does in this movie.
Yeah, and then when the speech is over, they're all talking afterwards. Oh,
Downey takes LSD. He takes 2 pills.
And
tabs.
he's trying to talk Kiefer into doing it, but he says, no, I don't want to do that. Not here, not now.
Yeah.
And then
next time we see him, he's taken all of his clothes off except for his underwear, and he's giving a speech
on the stage. And then he like climbs on like
climbs the rafters and then swings like Tarzan through the.
We are not lying. Like
this is what
legit. What happened? And if it sounds like the tones of our voice are a little bit reserved, it's because it's a little.
It's a little uncomfortable with like how Downey's life will go and the actual substance abuse issues he's dealing with at the time of filming this movie and afterward.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, very happy that he's got
doing
involved.
Dr. Dolittle. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say doing Oppenheimer, but doing Doolittle. But no, that he's kind of figured it out and has is very successful and has a strong career now.
Yeah.
But it's rough to see someone kind of playing a role like this, and he's doing
when they're going through it,
and he's doing it very well because he's going through it.
Yeah.
But he ODs at the end of this.
Yes. Doesn't die.
He doesn't die, and the movie kind of just then does a time jump, and it's them driving around a VW van.
And this happens off screen that they flunk out of college.
Yes.
Because it wasn't the LSD incident that got him expelled, because that wasn't at college. That was at a high school graduation.
Yeah. He does say he flunked out while he's high, and then I guess Kiefer just kind of
dropped out. Well,
drops out.
he said like he forgot exams.
Yeah.
Because there was a scene in the high school graduation where he's like, by the way, how's your exams going? Aren't you in the middle of those? It's like, oh, yeah, I guess I did have those things.
Yeah. So they both flunked out, and so they're just driving around in a VW van.
It speaks to an even more point of like you're building these scenes where he's saying no to the counterculture, and then you have these scenes where he's very genuine in the whole like, oh yeah, I forgot about those exams. Like pick a side.
Yeah.
Pick one movie.
Yes.
Like if you have it to where he responded to that question like, oh fuck, we're exams today? Oh my god. Because then you're at least like putting a stake in it. You're being like,
Winona's the one who goes through the journey in this movie.
Yeah.
Going from like kind of a conservative
and yet
small
it's
town
through Kiefer's POV.
Yes.
It's so strange.
And his like lesson at the end of the movie is I just need to be more forefrontal with my centrism.
Well, he does go like full anti-war.
Yeah, he does go full anti-war at the very end, but it takes a long time to get there.
Yeah. And it's a very quick jump.
Yes.
Because then him and Winona start a relationship.
Well, first...
I know. We'll get there. Yeah. But like, I just wanted to... Yeah.
So driving around in this VW van, it's the classic hippie van. He draws a bunch of flowers and leaves on the side of it. And he's like, man, we're just leaves in the wind. I'm like, all right, Kiefer.
All right.
You say that.
Yeah.
You do that, buddy.
Yeah.
And Downey's like getting bummed.
Yeah, he's
Downey
like...
kind of like gets a little more traditional. He's like kind of going through an inverse arc.
Yeah, he's in like, he's like, why aren't you like down in the dumps, man? He's like, because we got to get a job.
He's like, we
man.
just need to get a job and figure it out.
Yeah. He's like, we can't just be like, what do you expect us to be doing? Like, just this? Like, we got to like see real life, man.
So now these kind of flip roles at this point because Kiefer is a little more hippie and Downey's a little more like traditional.
Does the brother go missing? Because I don't remember what point of the movie that happened.
It's after this.
It's right after this?
Yeah, because they're driving around in this van. They go to like some communes.
The nudist colony, right?
Yeah, the nudist commune. And at one point they hear some woman sings Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now. It's great. They go back to their town in Maryland. They find Winona as a what's it called? Lifeguard? I forgot the word lifeguard. They found Winona as a lifeguard at a pool, and they all go to like a town fair. Where
I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, it's kind of... This is the weirdest scene. Because they go to a town fair, and Kiefer finds his mom, who's running like a pie booth, where you can rent a pie and throw it at Bruce Dern, who's dressed like a clown in like one of those... You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just don't remember this part of the movie. Do you want to know the next thing I'm thinking of? When they go to the courthouse to burn the draft cards.
That is almost what happens next.
Okay, because I don't remember this section at all.
Yeah, so...
You watched this an hour ago. I watched this last night.
Yes. So they're in this whatever. And this is where he's like, have you heard from my brother? And they're like, oh, haven't you heard? He went missing, MIA.
Which is
And Winona goes, missing in action. When they say MIA. And then he runs off because he's upset that his brother's MIA.
Yeah.
Which was one of the classic Vietnam-isms that Nixon introduced, was putting people as MIA instead of KIA.
Yeah.
To the extent that they were promising families that there were like there's still 2,000 POWs in Vietnam. We're going to get them out. And realistically, all those people were dead. giving those families false hope so he can, inflate his approval ratings. It's a great time to be an American.
Man. And all those Nixon impressions you do.
Yes, because he is very funny. He is
after saying what you just said.
Yes,
and
he
then
is
following up with
a very silly man.
I don't understand you, Jeff Sweeney. Hitler killed 6 million Jews, but he's a very silly man.
Very different situation.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
bombed Cambodia.
But also, Hitler jokes are funny. When those downfall videos went viral like 10 years ago, which is like Hitler reacts to.
Yeah, right.
Like they are funny.
Right.
I'm of course not trying to equate the responses of the crimes, but I do think that these people are worth making fun of.
Sure.
We need to emphasize that they are jokes and should be.
Yeah.
Even as they committed terrible things, as Nixon did.
That's good. I like that, Jeff.
Yes.
That was very well said.
Thank
very
you.
well spoken. Applause for Jeff Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you all. But his brother's missing, and he and RDJ kind of, he gets into a fight with his dad at some point about it.
Yeah, because eventually he kind of just says like, "Oh no, I'm thinking about the scene with the dad and the mom alone."
Oh yeah, he kind of gets into an argument with his dad that he's like, "You shouldn't have been over there," yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And so he and Downey especially get like nervous that their draft numbers might get pulled because they're not in college anymore.
Yeah.
And so the attempt to break into the draft office.
Real quick, there's a quick. Oh wait, no, I think it actually happens after this scene. Never mind.
They break into the draft office and they're going to try and burn their draft cards. Or
Yeah.
just steal them.
Winona helps them.
Yeah, Winona's like their lookout.
Yeah.
She's there with her dog.
Doesn't do a very good job.
Yeah, she's terrible at it.
Yeah.
She fucks it all up.
Yeah.
And so she's the lookout. She's like, "Oh, my dog's here." And they're inside. And Downey like kicks the window open. And Kiefer's like, "How'd you learn to do that?" And he's like, "I saw it on Mission Impossible." And it is funny that they're
I was waiting for
referencing
this.
Mission Impossible. And they're talking about the TV show.
Yeah.
Which aired in the 60s.
Right. It is pretty funny.
It is just funny, like, nowadays that if you were to say Mission Impossible gun to someone's head, and you're like,
Tom Cruise.
tell me every Mission Impossible thing, they would list you the 7 movies.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, there's a show? Like, nobody knows of the show anymore. Except for, like, true fans and people who watch the opening credits of the movie. And they're like, oh, it's just based on a TV show.
You know about the show.
Yes, because Bruce Geller is great. Jim Phelps.
Have you seen the whole show?
I've not seen the whole show.
Oh. It's like you're not a true fan.
It is funny that one of my favorite stories is that fans of the show were so furious when the first movie came out.
Really?
Because the first movie kills off all the characters from the show in the opening scene and then makes the main character of the show the villain of the movie. They're all played by different actors, but...
Oh, okay.
Because like Tom Cruise is the new recruit or the new member of the team.
Yeah.
And then they all get killed in the false flag, and it turns out John Voight, who's playing the main character from the show, is the mole.
That is very funny.
I just like that there were super fans of Mission Impossible who in 1995 were crawling.
Oh my God!
They're
what are they
crawling out of the woodwork to yell about how
doing to my show?
It's literally equivalent of all those people get so mad at The Last Jedi for quote unquote what it did to Luke. Except it's about the Mission Impossible TV show from 1969.
Wow. Way to bring up episode 8.
Yeah, I just like that those people existed for Mission Impossible 1, and it's very silly to me.
Yeah.
That they're all like, they're ruining it! Jim Phelps was a hero!
How long before had the show been canceled for?
Let me look up when the last episode of Mission Impossible aired.
Because if it was like 20 years ago, it's like, bitches, get over it.
It started airing in 1966 and it ended in 1973. So it'd been like 22 years.
Get the fuck over it. Okay, that is very funny.
I think about it often. That the true fans of the show were so upset by this.
John Voight was in Mission Impossible.
And like the Mission Impossible show, like the gimmick is like every week they get a mission and they go and do it. And now the gimmick of the movies is Tom Cruise will attempt to die for your viewing pleasure.
That is what the movies have become at this point. One day he'll succeed, but today is not that day.
Yes. He has
it's when he jumps into a volcano.
He jumps from a space station into a volcano.
Yeah.
He's got to make the precision dive.
My favorite thing about all these crazy stunts is how they rationalize in the story why he has to do them.
Well, do you know how they make those movies?
They do the stunts and film it around it.
They figure out what stunts they want to do.
Yeah.
Then they film them. And then they figure out the story.
That's fucking bonkers.
The Tom Cruise riding his bike off the cliff. They did not know what he was riding the bike off the cliff in pursuit of. They just knew he's jumping off a cliff, and he's going to aim for a train. We don't know who's on the train. We don't know what is on the train. But we know there's a train, and we know he's jumping off a cliff to get to the train.
That's so stupendous to me.
It's insane.
They should start taking fan letters and recommendations of what he should do next. It should be like a podcast show where it's like, all right, on today's episode of Tom Cruise does some crazy shit.
I listened to Chris McQuarrie's interviews for Dead Reckoning. He did a 12-hour interview with Empire. It was incredible. If you like movies, you should listen to it, even if you don't like that movie, just to hear about the production. But he is like, yeah, so I was like, yeah, my two big things, I figure out what do I want to see in the movie, like my two big set pieces, and I was like, I want to do a train, and Tom wanted to jump off a cliff with a bike. And he's like, all right, and then I talk to the marketing team, and I say, okay, what 5 visuals do you need for a trailer? And then they tell him the 5 things they need for a trailer. He's like, all right, I've satisfied marketing, I've satisfied myself. The studio will not be mad at me now because I explicitly am giving them a marketing material. Now I'm going to figure out what the story is to fit all this in.
And it'll make $1 million either way.
And it makes so much money.
Yeah.
And they're good. That's the crazy thing, is that they're all good.
But how are they good?
It's great because just hearing him describe his process, it's like he just meticulously and rigorously work on those movies. And they figure out the story as they film it, and then they just endlessly edit and, go do pickup shots. They test in front of audiences week after week, figure out, okay, what did they not like this time? What worked? And just over time make the movie.
It just seems like such a phenomenon that I don't know how it could be replicated 20 years in the future with a different actor.
Yeah, I don't think, hearing him describe how he makes his movies, I'm like, this only works if your name is Chris McQuarrie and you are working with Tom Cruise. I do not think the normal person could replicate this production method.
Like, who's the person that you pick up off the street and be like, I want to make an 8-part movie franchise that's just you doing batshit crazy stunt stuff? Because, even in the first one, while it doesn't start off that way, there's still, even hints of it. Like, with him, rappelling off the ceiling and shit.
It's the first 3 have, stunts in them, but it's nothing crazier than, a normal movie stunt.
Yeah.
The thing is, Tom Cruise in 2000... Mission Impossible 3 only makes a decent profit. It's not hugely successful.
Right. Even though it's the best one.
It's good. I like it as the best villain. They're all good. The second one's the only one that I'm iffy on, but they're all good. Paramount's basically ready to dump him, and he lobbies to do Mission Impossible. We talked about it in the show.
We talked about this, yeah.
He lobbies to do Mission Impossible 4, and they're like, okay, you can be in it, but it has to be a torch-passing movie.
And that's where
Jeremy
Renner comes
is supposed to take over the franchise. And then Tom Cruise is like, okay, I lost a lot of the public because of my couch jumping thing. People think I'm a weirdo now.
Well, and Katie Holmes.
Yeah, and Katie Holmes. Well, yeah, Katie Holmes.
That happens around this time. Sure.
And he's like, okay, people think I'm a weirdo now.
And
so
awful.
He's like, what if I just make that my movie persona now? That I am insane. And so from Ghost Protocol onward, every Tom Cruise movie is kind of about how insane Tom Cruise is. And it's like, I'm just going to do crazy stuff and run off the side of buildings and jump on planes and skydive into Paris. It's like, I'm just going to make that my persona now, and people are going to love it, and they do, and these movies make so much money. And they're all good. 1969. I'm going to get back to it. Watch how I'm going to do this. We're almost done this movie. So they break in, they find their draft cards, and Downey takes his out. And he's like, he tries to take Kiefer's out, and Kiefer's like, no, leave mine in. I don't feel right taking it out. And Downey's like, man, they're going to call you. And then some cops show up. And they go up to Winona, and they're like, what's going on? He's like, oh, I'm just looking for my dog.
And then the dog's right there.
And the dog is standing next to the grate where you can hear gong, gong of all of the guys and stuff. The cops are like, what's going on? And so they run to the door and they go in.
And then Downey gets caught.
Yeah. Downey takes the fall. He actually puts Kiefer's thing back in the slot.
Yeah.
So that it won't be missing, so they won't suspect him.
Yeah.
He kind of tries to take the fall. Kiefer hides in another room. Downey gets caught immediately.
Kiefer tries to
say, I was here too, and they're like, and Downey's like, no, it was just me. So Downey gets arrested and put in prison.
Yeah.
For, breaking into the draft office.
This might be such a stupid question, but like, they couldn't draft prisoners.
I don't think they could. Let me actually look that up.
My only point in saying that is like, that's one way to not get drafted. Just go to jail.
I'm looking up, could prisoners be drafted?
If so, that's another level of fucked upness. That you can draft prisoners.
Okay, it doesn't look like it. It does look like there was a consideration. That's modern. Yeah, it doesn't look like. It looks like if you were in prison, you were just in prison. They didn't want you in the military.
That's one way to not get drafted.
Yeah.
So the next thing I remember is there's a couple big things. One is the scene between the dad and the mom.
Yes.
Which is good. I like that scene.
The mom has like a full breakdown over the death of the MIA-ness of their son.
But she knows that means he's dead.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
And the dad's, Bruce Dern's struggling to comfort her. It's a very nice scene.
Yeah.
The two actors are doing very nice work. It's hard to care.
But
it's hard to care.
Yeah.
And then, she basically leaves Bruce Dern. She kind of pushes him away. And then he goes wandering the streets and he goes to
Downey's mom's.
The Downey home.
Downey home.
Yeah. Where he, makes out with Downey's mom, who we've established is single.
And I was confused because I thought in the movie that it almost seemed like they had a thing going on earlier.
Maybe, it's very vague.
But it is very vague.
Like, maybe they did, but I don't know.
At the same point in time, Winona and Kiefer are hanging out.
Yeah. And
in the van.
Yes. And they make a deal that they're going to leave. And so Winona,
they're going to go to Canada.
Yeah. Winona climbs out the window and comes down and they drive off. This is all happening the night of the moon landing.
Yes.
One
very
small
important.
step for man, one giant leap for mankind. You know what the best opening to any movie ever is?
Well, you said moon landing, so now I'm thinking of every moon landing movie. Oh, Transformers 4.
Yeah, Transformers 3.
See how I got there with that logic of,
which starts with the Cybertronian ship crashing on the moon, and then Neil Armstrong and Buzz
them
Aldrin
creating the space program so they could get there before the Russians did.
It's all very funny, but the thing I like in that movie is the opening credits, which are Nixon giving his call to them on the moon, overlaid with a fly-through of a Transformers ship. And he's like, we will bring heaven and earth together and be safe. And the whole time you're saying, it's so funny. It's so silly.
Yeah. Anyway, 69.
Which
is what Winona and Kiefer are doing. Hey. No. But they are fucking.
Yeah, they have sex.
Yeah.
And they go to visit Downey in prison before they go up, and he finds out they're sleeping together. And he's like, you balling my sister,
You're
bro?
Boning my sister?
He's just balling my sister.
Balling.
And he's balling my sister, and he he's like, we're not friends anymore. And I was like, no, it's consensual. Wow,
it's the way you said that.
That's kind of the scene.
It's consensual.
It's kind of the scene.
Oh my God. I mean, movie-wise, it shouldn't feel weird because they're only a year apart, technically speaking.
Movie-wise, they're a year apart. In real life, they're 5 years apart.
Yeah, a little weird.
It's a little weird.
Because she's 15 turning 16 in the movie.
Yes.
And he's 20-something, 2021. I think he's even older. I think he's 22.
Yeah, I believe he is.
So
they get in their VW van.
They head for Canada.
Yeah, they head for Canada. And we get a scene that I really do like. Which is they pull up behind a military convoy, and Kiefer honks his horn, and then he pulls up next to them.
Yeah.
And Winona just rolls down the window.
She
does the peace sign, and she gives this really fun expression on her face.
It's a scrunched up nose bit.
It's the scrunched up nose bit.
Yeah.
And it just gets to her innate likability. It's a good usage of her likable persona.
Yeah.
That she's just.
Her doing the peace sign,
flashing the peace sign.
It's
at
a
all
good
these
imagery, yeah.
And all these military guys are like, yeah, peace. She's building a bridge.
And then we get to the scene where they park the car next to a field where they're going to walk across the border. I like this scene, mostly what happens at the end.
Yeah, because if the movie is... The idea this movie is trying to do is it starts with two brothers in conflict. One's a soldier, one is against the war. And the end of the movie is kind of like, we should all come together, those of us who are being used by the military and those of us who are sidelined to it. We should all come together against this evil thing and support each other in this struggle. And so it's little scenes like, Winona just, flashing the peace sign and all the soldiers like going with it instead of them fighting.
Yeah.
That is in service of that theme that the movie is otherwise struggling to get to without just being very heavy-handed as the final scene will be.
Yeah.
But they do pull up to this field and they're getting ready to cross into Canada. And they like have a discussion. I was like, we can't go to Canada. We got to be with our family. I'm trying to figure out my Winona for this.
It is so funny because I hope you never figure it out. Yeah. I hope we spend the rest of this season.
I never figured out a Brendan, and my John is really bad. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, that's all you
that's
can
all
do.
I can do.
That's just fantastic.
That's all I can do.
Brendan, I can do when he yells.
Yeah. What?
I'm trying to think of something. It's like,
people are amazing.
That was pretty good.
You like that?
It was like, Alex, what are you doing? Like, like that was pretty good, right? I felt
You're
like
just an amazing child. That was a whale vision.
I need to know the one thing I've done is right. Something like that.
What good thing I've done in this life?
Yeah, something like that. Winona is just like, you're just doing a girl voice. It's so funny.
It's a girl voice with like a Midwest accent.
Well, that's just fantastic.
Well,
why am I doing Jodie Foster? Well, that's just
fantastic. You want to hear what's even worse?
Dr. Lecter.
You just said Jodie Foster, and I was like, give me back that baby. And I'm like, that's Holly Hunter.
God damn it. We should go to hell.
Dr. Lecter.
Dr. Lecter. Dr. Lecter.
If you can just look at this documentation for me. Help me find Buffalo Bill.
Oh, my God.
Silence of the pod.
They're making contact. Yeah. Oh, do you believe in that?
Now I want to watch Contact.
I want to watch Contact, too.
It's like the best movie ever.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's really good.
They're in this field.
Yeah, and she comes to her senses like, we can't cross the border.
Yeah, we can't just leave our families and everything. And he's like, well, I'll go without you.
And then a cop car pulls up. And it's funny because it's
like,
you guys can just drive across the border. It's a free country.
He's like, I'm not going to stop you. And so they, instead of crossing the field, they get back in their car and drive towards the border where the guy's
so
just
funny
because
it's like, it's these two kids that are like thinking they're doing something that's like defiant.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can just
drive through.
You can just drive through. You're not making a stance, which is what this movie is doing.
Yes.
Movie says a lot about not making a stance by not making a stance.
Yes. And so as they're driving towards the border, Kiefer pulls a Yui and they drive back home. And then we're just at the funeral.
For his brother, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gives a
who I guess has died? They found the body?
It sounds like it.
Yeah. There's just like a funeral.
And so then he gives a eulogy, and in this eulogy he says like very anti-war, like we all got to come together.
Yeah. Kiefer gives this big rousing speech.
We all should all march down to the Capitol.
Yeah.
And overturn this election.
Yes.
Sorry. I had to go there. I had to do it.
He basically gives a speech that's like, this war is bad. We should stop fighting over it, and we should all join together.
Yeah.
I'm in support of each other, and to that point, I want to free Downey.
Yeah, free.
We should march and free Downey. And then it's weird because he does put on a mask, and then
oh my God,
then just go, you can start by storming Blackgate and freeing your...
See, this is what Jeff does. Is whenever he
fucks
Bane
up, back.
When he fucks up an impression and can't really quite find the sweet pocket, he goes to what he knows.
I go back to Bane.
You go back to Bane or Nicholson.
I'm just always going back to
Bane, Nicholson, or Clinton.
I'm always going back to Bane.
Which of those? Name me another one outside of those three you're really good at.
I can do Gollum. I've never done it on this show, but I can do it.
I feel like everyone tries to do a Gollum and says it's a good impression. See, Jeff, what you're doing
It's
is
fine.
every single
Yeah, it's everyone's
30-year-old
Gollum
man
impression.
does.
Yeah, it's everyone's Gollum impression.
And everyone says, like, see, isn't it good? And I'm like, you're just breathing.
Yes.
That's all you're doing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm
It's,
just
like,
saying
fine.
it's like it's what everybody does.
Okay, so he starts marching to the town square.
Yeah.
And Winona joins him, and then like basically the entire town comes with him, except for his dad.
I think his dad comes with him.
Well, his dad stays behind with holding the
American flag.
folded up flag.
Yeah.
And then they're marching down Main Street.
Yeah.
And then a cop car pulls up, and the dad gets out of it, and he joins. They all come together.
And then they free Downey?
Yeah, and then
They just let Downey
just walk out with Downey and let him go.
Didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, because at one point he does be like, "Officer, you're gonna have to shoot me."
Now, if he was black,
Yes,
that's all I'll say.
yes.
That is all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, they succeeded getting him out. There is one bit of symbolism in this scene that I liked, even if it doesn't really do much. They walk past a movie theater, and on the marquee, it's Easy Rider, and below it is True Grit that's being taken down. Which is Easy Rider is the beginning of the new Hollywood film movement.
I thought you were about to say the name of our podcast, but
Well, it is actually that is funny that I didn't even think about that. The show is
You
called
didn't
Easy
think
Rider.
about that?
I didn't think about that until you just said it. I didn't even make that connection.
my God,
We are Easy Riders.
it is 7:53 p.m.
Yes,
Central
and they
Time.
walk past Easy Rider. But Easy Rider is the beginning of the new Hollywood movement, and True Grit is a classic Western, kind of the end of
the new era.
yeah. So it's like quite literally like the new era is being brought in. And if the movie did anything with that, I'd be like, that's a especially cool detail, but it's just like it's a fun bit of set dressing. Downey gets out and the movie ends.
Yeah.
Kiefer embraces with his dad.
Yep.
Everyone's happy.
Except for the audience.
Yeah, except for the audience who's like, all right,
What did I just come and watch?
soft 6 out of 10.
Yeah, good performances.
Yeah.
Some really good performing scenes.
Yeah.
For scenes that aren't very well written, but they're very well
Yeah.
performed.
Winona's great. I like her in it.
Downey and Kiefer have good chemistry. The mom and the dad have some good stuff going on. Yeah, that's about all I can really say about it.
It's a totally acceptable movie.
Now let's go to the Winona Nose Wrinkle ranking.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not doing
What if you
that.
did do that?
It'd just be the same.
Yeah, it'd be the
It's
same for every movie.
exact same thing.
But yeah, it's like a solid on base performance for Winona.
Yeah.
She's continuing to just like be good in things.
I mean, she
And-
had the wherewithal to know that it was a milquetoast script.
Yeah,
and watching it, it's like, hell yeah, it was a
Yeah.
milquetoast script.
And it says it's a big flop. It makes a little under $6 million against a $7 million budget, so it's like it loses money. Most of the reviews for it kind of describe it as aimless. It's like a nostalgic fog of a movie, which
Yeah.
I like that term.
I think I read that review too. Yeah, nostalgic fog of a movie.
Yeah, or a murky reflection of the Vietnam era.
And I mean, it's no doubt like people think of Winona Ryder in this era and they think of just Beetlejuice and Heathers. They're not thinking about
1969.
or Square Dance.
It's a movie that the only people who think of are us because we are covering every movie.
Yeah. So, but that just makes it more excited that you guys listened to last week Beetlejuice. Maybe you listen to this. I don't know. But then we hope you guys will tune in next week for Heathers.
Oh, yes.
Another amazing. Sorry, I wasn't trying to like crush us
Yeah.
into a segue to the end. Just generally
just did
speaking,
come- yeah.
it's like it's going to be, it's. I'm worried
Yeah.
because we've been down this road before where we cover a lot of really back-to-back bangers and then we get to the doldrum period.
Winona's does not have as bad of a doldrum period.
Because I feel like every doldrum movie she's done at least is something.
Yeah, all of her doldrum movies are interesting, and there aren't many of them.
Yeah.
It's like maybe like 3 movies I'm not excited to talk about.
Yeah.
In a row, but for the most part, there's always something interesting around the corner.
Yeah.
And speaking of around the corner, do you have anything else to say about this movie? It doesn't. It just.
No.
That's all I have for post text.
No. I love that in the poster it's an American flag. Just because
Yes.
it's another way of saying it's like this movie's trying to be patriotic and also anti-war.
I like Downey as like a specter in the corner.
I know.
Of the DVD.
Well, I
cover.
like the IMDb poster better.
Yeah, it's a better.
It's a better poster. That's not a good DVD cover. Kiefer looks photoshopped into it.
I said, it was the softest 6 out of 10 I can buy. Like, it is overall a better movie than it isn't. Like, I I enjoy movies set in this era, so I found like surface pleasure in it.
I'll never watch it again.
Yeah, I'm never gonna watch it again.
Yeah.
Even though I now own the DVD.
I mean, how many DVDs on your shelf have you watched more than once?
I'd say
I see the
half
Alien quadrilogy.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen Alien Resurrection?
Only once.
And I know you're about to watch
We're
it
about to watch it a second time for this very show.
And aren't we fucking psyched for it?
I'm gonna watch all the Alien movies again.
Building up to it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I should too.
I'm excited.
Alien 3.
Good movie.
Say what you will. Say what people will. Not as bad as I thought it was.
No, it's pretty good.
I watched it because I watched Alien 1 and 2 when I was pretty young.
Yeah.
I remember watching Alien 3. I'm like, this movie sucks.
I like that Alien 3 is
I hate this
such
movie.
a bummer immediately.
Yeah.
that
And
Alien,
it stays that way. It stays that way.
that Aliens has this extraordinarily rousing finale,
Yeah.
which is perfect for that movie.
Yeah.
But I like that Alien 3 brings it back to like Alien, and it's just like it's a miserable movie.
Yeah.
Um,
It's actually better than people who are listening to this. You probably haven't seen it in a long time. Go and rewatch it. I bet you'll.
and watch the assembly cut, not the
Yes.
theatrical cut.
Oh my God. Thank you for saying that. It's not counted the director's cut. I thought
No,
it was
because Fincher refused to
do a director's
do
cut.
a director's cut, so it's the assembly cut. It's what it's like what the editor remembers his cut being like.
Got it.
But it's very good.
Yeah.
It's like
Good.
Good. It's good.
It's good. Not very good.
But it's good.
It's good.
Alien
Four.
But we will not be talking about that. We'll be talking about Alien Resurrection. We will have to have a discussion about which version of that movie we're covering because there are two.
There are two?
Yes. All the Alien movies have two versions. For Aliens, Alien 3, and Resurrection, I think the extended cut's usually preferred. Alien, the director's cut, even Ridley Scott's like, don't watch it. I just did it for the DVD for the hell of it.
Oh.
It's like fine. It adds two scenes and they're not really important.
Isn't one of them though like the alien kept them alive?
Yeah, it contradicts
the whole thing.
Aliens.
Right.
Because like essentially Ripley finds Yaphet Kotto and I think Veronica Cartwright or Harry Dean Stanton. She finds the two of them like
alive and in that little like
essentially being turned into eggs.
Oh, did not clock that.
And then Aliens establishes that
they're not being turned into
eggs. The queen
eggs.
lays the eggs.
Yeah.
And
I
so
didn't
it
clock
kind of
that
like
they were being turned into eggs.
Yeah.
I just thought they were like, you know how like they're all propped up
Yeah.
in like the solid goo?
Yeah.
That's what I clocked it as.
Aliens, has people locked, like, kind of stuck in the walls like that as hosts for the chestbursters. Aliens just kind of like has them turning into eggs.
Oh, yeah, did not clock
It's
that.
a little weird.
Yeah. Yeah, not talking about it though.
Yeah, we'll talk about Alien Resurrection when we get to it. I'm very excited.
Me too.
But for right now, thank you for listening to this episode on 1969. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to tune in next week for an episode on Heathers. It promises to be a barn burner. We'll have Rebecca Sweeney on for that one.
Sweet.
In the meantime, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. As a reminder, we're available on Spotify, Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, plenty of other places. Hit us with a like and subscribe on whatever platforms you have. They are always appreciated, and we thank you all for your support every week. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, BlueSky, at Travolting Pod, TravoltingPodcast@gmail.com if you have anything to send to us, r/Travolting on Reddit if you're interested in that kind of thing. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney. Stuart, anything you want to plug?
No.
Cool. Final plug, special thanks as always to Rebecca Johnson for graphic design and Michael Van Bodegum Smith for the theme music that's now taking you out. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a great week, folks.